Are you going to give him the green light?
No, Joe, his running is under control at all times.
Why?
Well, because of the fact that we want to control when he runs and when he doesn't. Batting second and playing shortstop is Mariano Duncan.
Do you play hit and run with those two?
No, we don't, Joe, simply because Mariano Duncan can really fly from the left side. Very rarely will you see him hit into a double play. Batting third and playing left field is Kenny Landreau, and hitting the ball good. Batting fourth and playing center field is Pete Guerrero. And since we moved him to the outfield, Joe, he's been swinging the bat very, very well. Batting fifth and playing first base is Greg Brock. He's given some home run power.
Will you let him hit 3-0?
Oh, absolutely. You can bet on that. And batting sixth and playing right field is Mike Marshall, and we're expecting big things from Mike. He has great ability. Batting seventh and catching, and he did a wonderful job last night, Mike Scioscia, hitting in the A spot and playing third base, Dave Anderson. He's done a tremendous job since he's been called back from the minors. And pitching today, Oral Bulldog Hershiser.
What will tell you that Hershiser is heading for trouble?
Once he starts getting his fastball up, he is a good sinker ball pitcher. You see him throwing a lot of ground balls. You know he's pitching his game, and we need real good defense on the infield to help him.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, and thank you, fellas.
Here's the defense for the Atlanta Braves. Harper's in left field, Murphy in center field, Claudell Washington is in right field. Oberkfell is at third base. Ramirez, who is really having a year for the Braves, is shortstop. Hubbard, Chambliss. Behind the plate, Owen, who has just been brought up from Richmond. Cerrone and Benedict. The word we get is they're both banged up. And Rick Mailer is the pitcher.
Rick Mailer is out of Austin, Texas, and he started off having a great year. He won his first 7 decisions. He was 7-0. He has turned around to win just 1 of his next 7 games, so his record has been brought down to earth. He is 8-5. He really has only been knocked out of 1 game. That was against Montreal. And the only time he ever lost to the Dodgers was back in 1981, and he was shut out 2-0. He is 4-1 lifetime. The other thing about Rick Mailer, Mailer is the only Atlanta starting pitcher, to get into the 9th inning this year, and he got 1 out in the 9th, and he was dispatched.
In his first 7 starts, the Braves scored 53 runs. In his last 7, they've scored 16, including being shut out twice. He doesn't blow hitters away. He's a guy who'll change speeds, and very simply, he likes to change speeds, work fast, and throw strikes. He'll give you the middle of the plate, and he'll take the edges. He'll be inside, outside, and his fastball becomes much more effective when he's varying the speed.
The most strikeouts for him, and again, just to back up that idea about the fastball, his high in strikeouts, only 5, and against a team that is notorious for striking out this year, and that would be the Philadelphia Phillies, who are #1 in a most unenviable department. The Phillies, if you can imagine, have struck out 371 times. There isn't anybody close to that. So Steve Sax will start it off, and he's a hot hitter. He's hit in 9 of his last 10. Tommy mentioned him, and he has gotten his average up now to 266. So Sax will be followed by Duncan and then Landreau. Just a couple of years ago, if you're watching a Dodgers-Braves game, you're watching the leader in the National League West. The Dodgers won the division in '81, the Braves in '82, the Dodgers in '83. San Diego took over last year, and these 2 clubs are trying to battle back. So here we go. Fastball misses, ball 1.
Ben Hines, a fine hitting coach, is working with Manny Mota with these Dodger hitters, and Sax is one of his pet projects.
1 ball and no strikes. And a line drive off the body of Mailer, and unable to pick it up is Rafael Ramirez. So Mailer is stung as Sax hits a bullet. Take another look at that one.
Sax's idea is to hit the ball up the middle or to the right side, and he sends it right back up the middle. If you're going to get hit, that's the spot to get hit, right there. They're coming out to see him, but it looked like it hit him on the soft spot, and he appears to be all right.
You might also notice, as we check on Mailer, that Rafael Ramirez, when he came in, his right arm looks like a thoroughbred's leg. Ramirez had a shot of cortisone just a few days ago, and his right forearm and elbow heavily wrapped. You can see it there.
It's not...
Though Rafael Ramirez unable to field that base hit, and Mailer evidently is okay. He got a little of his glove and a great deal of his hip in the way of that line drive. And Mariano Duncan makes out on breaking balls and does pretty well hitting left-handed on fastballs, so that his overall average is 250. But he's just learning how to hit left-handed. He is hitting under 200 from this side of the plate, and it would be no surprise should he bunt.
I thought it was interesting that Tommy said he will not run Sachs because Duncan gets out of the batter's box so well.
Yeah, he's not much of a threat of hitting into a double play. He tried to drag that time. He wasn't sacrificing. He was going to bring it with him. Mariano Duncan, a pleasant surprise. He's a kid trying to do what Steve Sachs did, make the long jump from San Antonio and bypass the Pacific Coast League, and he's been able to do it up to here.
That's a big jump, all right.
Sachs, of course, would love to get a jump, and Mailer keeping an eye on him. Chris Chambliss starting his 4th straight game at first base, and that's news down here because Gerald Perry was the regular first baseman for about a month. Sachs has stolen 13, but he's been caught 6 times. 2-1. A couple of them picked off. He was picked off last night.
That was kind of a weird play last night. Looked like he was undecided. And when he ran off, he said something to the third base coach like there was just utter confusion.
Yeah, he was definitely confused. He was picked off twice by Dwight Gooden. So Sachs might be losing a little bit of his rhythm as far as taking his lead and getting a jump. 2 balls and 1 strike. Hop fly, and it'll be Chambliss. And of course, for Duncan to hit the ball in the air left-handed is a big mistake. He's not going anywhere because he doesn't have any power at all. So Duncan tops it up. The batter will be Kenny Landreau.
You've got an early pattern on Lasorda in his use of Sachs and Duncan. 2 balls and 1 strike, and Sachs was not breaking, even though Duncan, as you point out, Vin, is a guy that can hit the ball on the ground.
And I guess it was about a week ago, Lasorda played run and hit with that combination when they were down by 3, and statistically it didn't make any sense. But Lasorda said, I just wanted to get something started. Well, now his team has been playing reasonably well. The Dodgers have won 4 of their last 5. Time call by John McSherry at the request, I believe, of Larry Owen.
What he did was Landreau tipped the glove of Owen as he came back. Sometimes the catcher will do that and just to agitate a hitter.
Well, Larry Owen just up from Richmond. Ball 1. Landreau is another Dodger who is starting to hit pretty well. He's had 5 hits in his last 13 at-bats, so he's lifted his average a little bit. And he has done very well against Rick Mailer. He's hitting .345 lifetime. And there goes Sachs, and they play hit and run, but it's a ground ball to Hubbard, a feed to Ramirez, and that's all they get, as Saxey tried to tie him up and did get 1 ankle. And Ramirez unable to throw.
There's the classic example of using the hit-and-run play to stay away from the double play. It looks like a double play ground ball, but look at Sachs get in tight, and he ties him up right there with his left leg. He gets Ramirez at the ankle, and watch him try to double pump to get the throw off. He starts to throw, now he has to hold up. He'll pump again, and now it's too late.
Boy, he really stuck that left leg into Ramirez's right ankle to turn him around. But, of course, Saxey's learning himself at second base, and Bill Buehler cleaning him off in the dugout. That'll bring up Pedro Guerrero, and we'll see just how important it is to break up the double play and let your cleanup hitter have a shot. He has 3 home runs in the month of June, and he had 2 home runs in April and May, and he drives it to right, and coming over is Washington, and it is just foul. Just foul. Charlie Williams right on the line, able to look down and make the call.
That was mighty close.
So Guerrero missing an extra base hit as Claudell Washington tried to run it down. And Guerrero will come back and try it again.
Take a good look at it. Look at that. Very close. Interesting because they usually pitch Guerrero inside to move him away and then throw that slow curveball the outside part of the plate. It looked like Pete went up there with the idea if he throws him a fastball, I'm going to jump on it regardless of where it is.
Last night, he came up against Steve Bedrosian, who struck him out on 3 breaking balls. But then later on in the 8th inning, at the expense of the left-hander Dave Schuler, he hit his 7th home run. Dave Schuler might not be a household word. He and Steve Shields have been brought up to pitch for Atlanta because Pascual Perez and Len Barker are on the disabled list. 2 other reasons why the Braves are struggling.
Do you think the gold standard goes down when Perez takes those necklaces and rings and everything on?
The only guy who could challenge him is Sammy Davis Jr.
He really has a load of it.
0-1. There's that fastball in at the knuckles, 1-1. But you have to remember, Mailer is a control pitcher. He is capable of pitching a game without giving up a walk. In fact, he's worked a game where he gave up only 1. And he does not overpower anybody. He strictly changes speeds and hitting spots. 1-1. 2-1. On deck, the left-hand hitting Greg Brock.
You can oversimplify Mailer's pitching as we look at Brock, that he'll go inside and outside and give you the middle of the plate because he's not going to throw there if he can possibly avoid it.
2-1. Off speed, and it's driven to left field and gone. The changeup is against the scoreboard. So a high change like a letter from home, and the Dodgers lead 2-0.
You can bet me that if you ask Guerrero right now as he's rounding second and heading for third, were you looking for that? He said, I had to look for it after he missed with the fastball twice.
So Guerrero, who homered in the 8th inning last night against Schuler, now has back-to-back home run at-bats. Take another look at it. He muscled that one out, no doubt.
Perfect timing. He knows that he got all of it. You can see him just follow it.
Interesting how many home runs the Dodgers have hit on the road. They kill the opposition with home runs on the road. Better than 2-1. They have 27 home runs on the road prior to today. Right. And you know how many they hit against Atlanta last year? Here, a dozen. This is their favorite ballpark, and they have now hit 4 home runs in 10 innings. Brock hit one last night. Brock hitting .214, picked up his 7th. 1 year ago, the Braves had a 9-game winning streak and were leading the National League West by a game and a half. Today, they are 10.5 games out of first place and a half a game ahead of the San Francisco Giants. 2-2.
And when I was watching that Guerrero home run, the scoreboard in the background showed Detroit 8-1 over Toronto. How about those Toronto Blue Jays, the way they're going?
Outstanding. A runaway. That's hit foul down the line. We had a brief glimpse of Eddie Haas. His first year in Atlanta is certainly troublesome. But, you know, it's not fair to just talk about Haas. You want to talk about fellas having their first year. How about John Felsky? The Phillies are in and out of last place. How about Jim Davenport? They're in last in San Francisco. Bobby Valentine is last with Texas. And Chris Cartier, well, he's throwing first base into right field. Tough business. 3-2. Big change curve, just missed. You see John McSherry's arm?
He was confused as to which arm was going to go up. He started to call that a strike, and then the left arm went. That was very, very close.
John looked like a head waiter who was about ready to say this way, and the tip wasn't big enough. Watch.
Watch that right arm.
Right
there.
Never mind.
And now you just go ahead to first base. Yeah.
So Big John. Meanwhile, Big Marshall, who is in the midst of a slump, he is 1 for 15. He had a base hit and an RBI last night and did get robbed of a hit and an RBI by Ramirez. Dodgers call him Moose. He's big enough. He takes a size 14, 14.5 shoe.
Was that funny, watching Sachs come in with Mike Marshall's shoes on? He would take 3 steps before the shoes moved.
He looked like a return of Emmett Kelly. 0-1, the count to Mike Marshall. Bigfoot, which is another nickname, and the count 0-2. He pays a price. He's a very offensive hitter. He's not up there to eyeball him, but because of that, he has struck out 51 times in 51 games. 2-0 Dodgers on the wings of a 2-run home run by Guerrero, only because Steve Sachs broke up the double play at second base and allowed Guerrero the chance. 1-2. The Dodgers come in here above 500 for the first time since they had played only 30-some-odd games, and their high has been 3 games above 500. They're 5 back of San Diego. The Padres winning a big doubleheader last night. They're breezing, playing very well. Mike holding up on that big slow jug in the dirt.
It's been a long inning from Mailer. He has made 23 pitches already. That's not like him. That's got to be a barometer for the pitching coach and the manager.
You know, not to overwhelm people with numbers, but this is kind of staggering. You wonder why Bruce Sutter has not made any impression here in Atlanta. Bruce has 9 saves. When the Braves are trailing in a game after the 3rd inning, you know what their record is? They've lost 19 of those 21 games. So there's nothing for Sutter to save as Murphy makes the catch, and that's it. So the Dodgers, thanks to Sachs breaking up the double play, have Guerrero hit a 2-run home run, and they're on the boards leading 2-0. Starting lineup in right field, hoping to get well against a right-hand sinker baller. Rafael Ramirez, who has hit in 7 straight at shortstop. Dale Murphy, who has been very quiet after that big month of April in center. Terry Harper, a slumping left fielder, hitting in the cleanup spot. He hasn't had much to clean up, and he hasn't cleaned up when he's had the opportunity. Chris Chambliss in his 4th straight game because Gerald Perry just can't get on track, so they go back to the veterans. Ken Oberkfell is playing 3rd to get an extra left-handed bat in there, and also to give Bob Horner a rest. You might remember Horner had homered in 3 straight games. His elbow was swollen, or his wrist, and they finally took him out. He's okay, but Oberkfell will play today. Hubbard at 2nd, the rookie catcher Larry Owen up from Richmond, and Rick Mailer the pitcher. And here's a good look at Orel Hershiser. Hershiser 5-0. And here's the way they stack up defensively.
Landreau in left field, Guerrero, and talking about that one he missed, and Cummings got a triple on. He said, I just misjudged it. Marshall is in right field. Anderson, Duncan, Sachs, Brock, the infield. Socia, who does quite a job with these pitchers, is behind the plate. And Hershiser is the pitcher. And remember what Lasorda said, if he's got his good stuff, be a lot of ground balls because it's a hard sinker that he throws. He's got a good overhand curveball, but the one that gets him out is the hard sinker.
Orel Hershiser pitching to Claudell Washington. And Washington had some big numbers until he went down the tube, so his average is now 263. Ball 1. Hershiser is 2nd in the league in earned run average to the great Dwight Gooden. Hershiser in his last 9 starts has not allowed more than 2 earned runs. Up the middle. So Washington off the bench gets a base hit.
Well, he got the ground ball all right, but it was right back up the middle. No chance to make the play. It's by Hershiser. Duncan gave it a good effort, but base hit. And now the real hot hitter, Ramirez, is in the batter's box. He has really been on a tear.
He sure has, with a 7-game hitting streak, even though he has had that sore elbow. And Ramirez climbs in with Washington at first, held on by Brock. 2-0 Dodgers in the 1st inning. 1 ball and no strikes. Rafael having a look at Bobby Wine coaching at 3rd. Bobby Dews coaching at 1st. Two and 0. Ramirez with that 7-game hitting streak, and with a count 2-0 now, we'll see if Wine lets him go. One thing the Braves have not done this year is any running or any hit and running. Consequently, they are on a record-breaking pace of grounding into double plays.
They have been playing station to station. Go over to 1st, go to 2nd and stop, go to 3rd, get some gas and stop.
Big chopper over the glove of a leaping Anderson and down the line. Washington is going to 3rd. They'll hold him on a double by Ramirez, who has hit in 8 straight. And the tying runs are aboard with nobody out.
The infield, as you could tell by that ball, is very fast, very hard. It's a new infield almost every year here. In fact, it is every year because they have everything from football to drag races or what mound pulls or whatever they have. No chance for Anderson to make that play.
So with runners at 2nd and 3rd and nobody out in a noisy 1st inning, It'll be Dale Murphy trying to get him well. Murph has only missed getting a base hit in 12 of the Braves games, so he's got big numbers.
He took a lot of extra batting practice today. He's been in one of those things called a slump, and he's trying to snap out of it.
Boy, was he uppercutting the ball last night, and to no avail. Curveball for a strike, 0-1.
Well, to the avail today, they had him hitting down on the ball, hitting ground balls, hoping that they can strike that happy medium.
He struck out, as you can see, 6 out of 8, twice last night, and on fastballs, letter high inside. They just challenged him, and he tried to uppercut him. It's a totally different kind of a pitcher now, a sinker baller in Orel Hershiser. If you looked at Hershiser's record, you think he went to Notre Dame. Alongside his name, the letters ND, 7 times so far this year, no decision. Murphy, you remember, tied Ron Say's record. He had 29 RBIs in April. He got 5 more RBIs on May 1st, and he really hasn't been heard from since. Breaking ball, and he committed himself, though chasing a bad ball in the count 0-2.
Scioscia did a good job of blocking it, getting that big body in the way of it. Murphy kind of guessing on this one, bounces up there, and he just went too far.
Now Scioscia putting his head together with Hershiser. No balls and 2 strikes to count. Murphy during the year has been a big man in big spots. He's hit over 370 with people in scoring position. And remember, 5 of those 8 RBIs on the 1st of May. That's the game where the Braves beat Cincinnati 17-9. And really, their hitters have not been heard from ever since that day. But already now, down 2-0, they have runners at second and third, nobody out. Breaking ball got him swinging. 7 of his 9 at-bats, Murph has struck out.
That's the kind of a thing you catalog as a catcher. Remember the second strike, he chased a bad curveball. It bounced up there. Now they come right back with the curveball out of the strike zone. That's not a strike. He chases it, so they've really been able to get Murphy to widen his strike zone, which will really minimize his ability in that batter's box.
So Hershiser strikes out Dale Murphy. Dale all alone in the dugout with his thoughts right now as a slumping Terry Harper gets in. He's 1 for his last 18, and he quit on that pitch. He backed off and gave 0-1. Interesting about Harper, at this stage of the season, he is the only Braves player to be hit by a pitch, and he's been hit twice. But after all these games, the Braves have already played 50 games. Interesting that only Harper has been nicked. 0-1 to Terry. Breaking ball hit hard by a diving Anderson. 1 run is in. Here comes Ramirez to tie it up. So much to the delight of a large crowd here in Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium. The Braves do what they have not been able to do this year. They come back and come back early as Terry Harper knocks in 2 to get him even.
He's a strong hitter, Harper, and he really drills that ball past Anderson. So the 2 runs the Dodgers put on the scoreboard are answered.
Now the veteran Chris Chambliss up there. He's played first base more than any other active player, over 1,900 games. So they got a guy with a lot of years up there at the plate. Terry Harper had only 8 RBIs all year for the Braves last year. He now has 22, so he's improving despite the fact he's been in a slump, and Harper has just gotten them even. For Chambliss, he's looking for the magic. You think of him as a power hitter. He hasn't hit a home run since last July. Ground ball down to Sachs. They might get 2. Duncan in the dirt, and Brock Short hops it in the double play, despite the fact that Harper was able to take Mariano Duncan out. 2 runs, 3 hits, nobody left, and they're all even at 2. Nice to see the Braves and Dodgers score and score early. It is 2-2 in the second inning. Mike Scioscia followed by Dave Anderson and then Orel Hershiser. You look back September of '82, the Dodgers and Braves met here with first place on the line, and the score was Atlanta 12 and the Dodgers 11. Well, that was in 1982. both of these teams have been struggling. The Braves fell into last place briefly last week. They hadn't hit that low spot in 5 years. The Braves have lost 11 of their last 15. The Dodgers have won 4 of their last 5.
Then let's play a game. If you were Socia and he missed with 2 fastballs, would you look for fastball or curveball? I'd look for a slow curve.
All right, let's see. First of all, he's a contact hitter, and he got an off-speed little sinker, and the count ball 3, 3-0.
I'd have had to take that one all the way because I'm looking for the breaking ball, and I come out smelling like a rose because it's ball 3.
He doesn't have much power, so the chances are very good he's taken all the way. 3-1. Socia does not strike out. He is the kind of a player you can use him and put plays on because he makes contact. Larry Owen just up from Richmond. And there's ball 4.
Unusual.
The second walk for Rick Mailer. And in looking over Mailer's numbers, for instance, in his last 5 starts, the most walks in a game, 3. He hangs around 2 or 1 most of the time. So Socia at first, nobody out. Dave Anderson, the batter. Anderson playing third and playing well. Bob Baylor suffered a full hamstring. He was really playing well. And they were thinking after they had called Anderson back up from Albuquerque, he was the shortstop. But Baylor went down. So they kept the kid at short, Duncan. They put Anderson at third, and their defense had really tightened up. Little number to third. Oberkfell goes to Hubbard to first, not in time. Oh, wasn't hit hard enough to get 2, but they did make it close enough. Because Socia, without good running speed, did the best he could to get down there at Hubbard.
He really gets jammed. You can see he hit it to the thin side of that bat, this side of the trademark. Hubbard gets out of the way in good shape, gets pretty good stuff on it, but not in time to get Anderson. There was a good angle to see him get jammed. Oberkfell, knowing the runners, goes to second base, and Hubbard tries to get the double play, but they were happy to get 1.
You know, we were talking before about the Braves, and they finished up the inning with Chambliss hitting into a double play. They're on a record-breaking pace. The Red Sox a few years ago set the record for double plays, and the Dodgers staying out of it with Hershiser bunting. So that was one of the criticisms of Eddie Haas, Joe, the fact that, hey, he doesn't run, he doesn't play hit and run, and then the rumor is, okay, they're going to bring Earl Weaver in. And, of course, Weaver never played hit and run.
Weaver belongs at that school of BBT, Big Bang Theory. And, you know, there's an editor, Herman Mason, the Scholastic coach. He did a research on it, Vin, and I think in the last 20 years, I'm going from memory, that the Big Bang Theory works, that the clubs won more games with the run scored in 1 inning than the other team scored the whole game. Yeah. So don't punt, go for the big inning.
And especially you can go for the big banger if you have Eddie Murray and Cal Ripken, people like that. And Eddie Haas assumed that he could have the Big Bang Theory here with Dale Murphy and Bob Horner. It hadn't worked. Sachs trying to pick up Anderson from second with 2 out and a 2-2 tie. Ball 2, 2-0.
That's hard to believe, though, when you really start to think about it, that you would score more runs in 1 inning to win your games and the other team would score the whole game. I mean, I've been more the other way.
I wonder how many years you went back in that
20
study.
plus years.
20 plus. 2 balls, no strikes. 2-1. Sachs with his base hit in the first inning. He drilled one literally and figuratively off Mailer. And he has his average at 273. A 2-2 tie in the second inning. Fastball, and he got the inside corner. Good pitch. 2-2.
Sachs is trying to hit that ball, as we said, up the middle and to the right side. And when I asked him about it, he says, well, he's working with Ben Hines, and he wants to hit Hines drive.
Oh. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Off speed, a little change curve, and a flare down the right field line that drops foul out of play.
But, you know, Ben was making a good point as I talked to him. He said he's trying to convince Sachs it's not your batting average you should concern yourself with. It's your on-base percentage. A perfect game for Steve Sachs would be 2 base on balls and 2 singles.
Yep. Oh,
that would be on-base percentage.
Last night he had a couple of base hits, so he's had 3 hits so far in this series, which concludes tomorrow. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2-2. So Deuce is really wild. And there's a ground ball to Hubbard. And the beardless wonder makes the play. He shaved it off. And at the end of an inning and a half, the Dodgers 2, the Braves 2. And more than just getting rumors from the media about the fact that his job is on thin ice, he is reminded of the temporary life of a manager every time he goes to the Braves dressing room in the tunnel here in Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. He has to go by this statue. It is a statue wrapped in plastic right now, but when you get close up to it, the figure is easily identifiable. It is Phil Niekro. And if you didn't know what Niekro looked like, well, then what you would have to do is look at his hand. And on the statue, there it is, Knucksy, as they call this statue. Now, the word is they're going to unveil it one day when the Yankees have an off day and invite Niekro down here. There are some people who think they'll unveil it when Niekro's the new manager. And Ken Oberkfell grounds out. So, boy, that's pressure. Not just rumor, but the big statue down there in the tunnel.
The whole saga of that statue is kind of interesting because it was after Ted Turner, they let Niekro go. They felt they made a mistake. They owed him something, and boom, here comes a statue, which will be next to Henry Aaron's.
Yes, it is. Right in both areas for the moment anyway. And here's Glenn Hubbard. Hubbard is tough on you, particularly because of his size. He's only 5'8". Big overhand curveball for a strike. He has very good bat control, very good hit and run, and if you make a mistake, he has just enough power to hit it out, although he has just 1 home run this year.
If Niekro becomes a manager and he's pitching and he talks to himself, does that count as a visit? There's a whole mess of things you can think of. What if he wants to, does he have to wait for the relief pitcher to come in before he gives him the ball?
When you're living in Siberia and you do something wrong, where do they send you? 2-1. And if God sneezes, what do you say to him?
That's right.
That reminds me of one of the little jokes, and unfortunately there are always jokes about a dismal situation. Fastball and a 2-hopper hit by Anderson. Base hit for Hubbard. So he didn't wait on that thing and drilled it. Ted Turner recently was in the Soviet Union, apparently in a partnership cable deal with the Russians. But here in Atlanta, they said he was looking for a place in Siberia to send some people. It is 2-2 in the second inning. And Hubbard, a line single to left, and Larry Owen come up. Larry Owen, up from Richmond, he was hitting .261. Bruce Benedict has bad ribs. Rick Cerone is banged up, so they needed a healthy catcher, and here he is. To make room, they had to send Paul Zuvella out. However, the feeling here is as soon as Cerone and Benedict heal, Owen will go back to Richmond, and Zuvella will come back. We'll see.
Famous last words. Go out and have a good year. Make me call you back.
1 ball and no strikes to count. 2-2 tie in the second inning. And there goes Hubbard. And the ball is hit foul way down the left field line out of play. Owen hit a couple of pretty good fastballs last night. Both of them were against Jerry Royce. And each time he pulled them deep in the left field corner. And he got that pitch and pulled it too much. 1-1.
Slow curveball, and he didn't try to punch it in the right field. You can see what Eddie Haas is trying to do, stay away from the double play, get Mailer up there. It was not a bad hitting pitcher, but at least wouldn't lead off the inning.
1-1 the count. Ball 2. Remember, it's that albatross around the Braves' neck now. 2 balls and 1 strike, a natural hit and run spot. And yet the Braves have hit into 57 double plays.
Well, if he's going to put a play on, as you mentioned just now, this is the one right here. This will be one of those things you catalog.
2 balls, 1 strike. And the Dodgers instinctively feel they should drive Hubbard. 2-1. Braves have only stolen 18 bases this year. They just don't run. And they go, and there's a shot, hit and run, base hit. And on his way to third is Glenn Hubbard. So Eddie Haas puts it on and gets away with it as Larry Owen A hit-and-run single to right through the spot vacated by Steve Sax.
You could see Sax breaking. He was going to cover, and Owen goes that way. And there's Sax trying to retrace his steps, but it's past him. A big base hit, and Mailer, as we mentioned, a pretty good hitting pitcher.
So Eddie Haas, who has been accused of playing a standstill game, shows Terry Whitfield, who's on the phone to the bullpen, and the rest of the Dodgers that they don't necessarily stand still. They're going to go to second, claiming that the runner had missed the bag, but Randy Marsh says no. So Hubbard is at third and Larry Owen at first. 1 out and a 2-2 tie, and a very good hitting pitcher, Rick Mailer, coming up. In fact, the last game of the week we did here, you remember, he doubled a drive-in 3 against the Cubs. Ball 1. To show you what a struggle it is, and we don't mean to lay the body at his doorstep, but Rick Mailer has as many RBIs as the fellow they thought would be the regular first baseman, Gerald Perry. And Perry's had 130 at-bats. 1 ball, no strikes. He's throwing breaking balls. That's a sure sign that's a good hitting pitcher.
And he does not have good control of that breaking ball. It's not really snapping off. And now Socia wants to go out, and I'm sure one of the things he'll tell him is that, hey, you're rolling your curveball, and you're lucky he hasn't really taken a whack at it, even though they're not strikes. It's not a good curveball. And he's almost forced to go to that good hard sinker because he only has 1 pitch to work.
Bobby Castillo gets up in the Dodger bullpen, and Castillo pitched briefly and ineffectively last night. Fastball and a fly ball to shallow center. Guerrero digging and can't hold it. The run is in. Owen is at second. 3-2 Atlanta.
It was the sinker ball, and Mailer got jammed. Guerrero breaks hard. He knows now he's in trouble. He's going to have to dive. He almost got the glove on, off the fingertips, and it goes just far enough to make it an easy play for Hubbard to score. Look at that dive.
Well, remember at the start of the game, we were mentioning the fact that in his last 9 starts, Hershiser had only allowed 2 runs. Well, he's allowed 3, and we're only in the second inning. And here's Claudell Washington, breaking ball. It had 3 consecutive singles by Hubbard, a hit-and-run single by Owen, and now a bloop single by Mailer. Claudell can drive him out. Of course, one day he hit 3 home runs in 1 game against the Dodgers, so they know all about him. Breaking ball in the dirt. 1-1 to Hershiser, very wobbly. 3-2 Atlanta, bottom of the second inning. Hershiser was 1-2 against the Braves last year when he won 11 games. Fouled away, 1-2.
Almost every ball that's fouled into the dirt here is thrown out of play. They have that red clay here, and it really marks up the baseball, and if you leave it in play, it'll come up there looking like a barber pole.
1 ball and 2 strikes to Claudell Washington. Foul back. Neither Hershiser nor Mailer would have hung around last night. They would have been dispatched to get a good night's sleep. But the rest of the teams figured, let's say, the Dodgers got back to their hotel at 2:30 in the morning. So if you were really quick, you could get into bed before 3. Fastball missed, 2-2. The longest rain delay I've ever seen, 2 hours and 52 minutes last night.
That was a long. It was so long that the Braves asked the pitchers to take batting practice today so the fans could see something.
It's Larry Owen at second, Rick Mailer at first. 1 out, 3-2 Atlanta in the second inning. Breaking ball, whacked into right field. Here comes Owen to the plate. Marshall's throw to Scioscia. He is blocked out. Got him. Oh, what a block by Mike Scioscia to stop Larry Owen from scoring. And Owen banged up a little bit. Scioscia does this as well as anybody in the league.
As well as anybody I've ever seen. Owen came straight in. It was a legitimate slide, which is a mistake against him. He's a human wall is what he is when he blocks that plate. It's a curveball that Washington hits the right field. Marshall charges the ball well and gives Scioscia a good ball to handle. Now watch his feet, Scioscia's feet. Watch where he places them. No way. Owen came in straight, and that left leg of Scioscia just hooked Owen, and not even close.
John McSherry making sure that Scioscia is okay. And it was Larry Owen tangling up with the shin guard who limped away. That's 4 consecutive hits by the Braves, but 2 out. They have runners at first and third. And the Braves are leading 3-2. And, of course, for Orel Hershiser, he'd really be boxed around here. 4-1. They have... Take another look at Marshall's throw.
Scioscia gets a good ball to handle, man. One hop right there, and all he's got to do is catch it, and he knows exactly where he's positioned, and there's no way that Owen can get in there.
See Owen drop his head. He was shaken out. Ball 2, 2-0.
Right now, he's probably checking that left leg, and he's got as good a Schinberger as you ever want to get.
2 of the worst collisions I have ever seen at home plate involve Steve Yeager being hit by Cesar Cedeno and by Dave Parker.
I remember that one.
Oh, and of course, we all remember in the All-Star game, Pete Rose knocking Ray Fosse head over syllable. 2-1.
If you can place yourself as a catcher, you've got the advantage because you have all the equipment. You can give the runner a shin guard sandwich just as easily as not. And of course, when those big guys come in, you got to be a little careful, and you kind of tiptoe through the tulips when you make tags. But not Scioscia. He's like a tag team wrestler. He just stands there and says, hit me.
You have Washington at first, and it's been a long inning for Rick Mailer. He's been out there on the base pads. 3-2 Atlanta in the second inning. And there goes Washington. It swung on and missed. Scioscia in the dirt to sack. And holding at third is Mailer. So Eddie Haas is showing Atlanta that he'll do things his way. He has played hit and run and gotten away with it. Now Claudell Washington steals second.
I'm surprised Scioscia threw that ball because watch him look the runner back at third, and he doesn't really make a good throw, and it's really a good play at second base by Sachs.
I guess they never expected Rick Mailer to come in from third on that throw. 2 balls and 2 strikes to count.
Ball hit the dirt, so they want to take a look at it. Chances are, out it goes.
You know, the Braves now have 19 stolen bases. If you add that to San Diego's 16, you have a total of 35. Vince Coleman of the St. Louis Cardinals has 39 all by himself. Remarkable, huh?
He's amazing.
And Hershiser wondering how to get anybody out. He got a double play ball, and he got a catcher out at the plate. 2-2, the count to Ramirez, who doubled in the first inning. He's hit in 8 straight. So Washington at second, Mailer at third, 2 down, 3-2 Atlanta in the second. Fastball. Well, he's really struggling now with everything.
Scioscia has done 2 things, not that I'm partial to catchers, that really help pitchers. One of them is to block the ball in the dirt and to block that plate. I mean, the guy has become a human dead end.
Yeah, he really is. He's remarkable. 3-2 the count to Rafael Ramirez.
And Hershiser's shaken off. 2 signs so far. You see Scioscia rub him off as he went across that protector.
He has first base open, but he has Dale Murphy on deck. So 3-2 to the hot hitter Ramirez. Breaking ball and a high fly ball to left field. Landreau on the track at the fence, leaps up, gone. Castillo will come in for Orel Hershiser, as Hershiser is shelled. And it is 6-2 Atlanta with 2 out in the bottom of the second.
Now, a new definition of quality and performance. The new Norelco electronic rotor track with the fastest, longest-lasting charge of any leading razor. Inside 3 floating heads is a patent...
It was clobbered in an inning and 2/3.
Looked like a slow curveball. Ramirez really doesn't look like he drives the ball, just kind of reaches and it keeps carrying. Landreau gives it a pretty good chase. He finds the fence, up he goes, and close, but no Gary Pettis catch on that one.
So Hershiser is dispatched with 2 out, and Bobo Castillo gets a strike to Dale Murphy. Castillo pitched briefly last night, or I guess we could say early this morning, and he walked 2 batters, and he was gone. 1-1. It is Castillo, you know, who has the credit of teaching Fernando Valenzuela how to throw the screwball. 1-1. Fastball, and he missed with it. So it is 6-2 Atlanta in the second inning. Murphy, the Iron Man, but he's been struggling with the bat of late. Breaking ball, but he wouldn't chase that one. Remember, that's how he struck out. He's the only member of the Braves to play in every game. Pedro Guerrero has appeared in every Dodger game. So the 2 center fielders.
That was a fastball out of the strike zone. Tell you, when you're not hitting, the ball looks good, and you can't understand why you're not drilling it. But one of the reasons is you're not hitting the strikes.
3-2 the count. Fastball, line drive, base hit. So Castillo is welcome to the club. That is the 8th hit for Atlanta and the 6th consecutive hit. So it now makes it 9.
And that was his strike, and he really went to work on it. He gets under that ball a little bit. It's a home run. He hit that ball hard.
So after Oberkfell grounded out, a Hubbard single to left, Owen had a hit-and-run single to right, Mailer single to center to score Hubbard, Washington single to right, but Owen was thrown out of the plate, and Ramirez hit a 3-run home run. So it's a 4-run inning, and it's 6-2 Atlanta. Harper singled in the first inning. 6 consecutive base hits. One thing Murphy has not done at all, with Castillo taking a look at him, Murph has not been running. He stole 19 last year. He had 30 the year before. He has 1 this year, and he stole that one on Tuesday.
Hey, I'd be hesitant to run him if I were managing. You know, he's a franchise guy. One swing of the bat, give you a couple runs, and if he slides, steals the base, and gets hurt, I think I'd wake up at night screaming.
Sure. So from 30 to 19 to 1, and as his stolen bases go down, his stature increases here. Here's a high fly ball. It's playable if it stays anywhere on the field, and there's Landreau. So Terry Harper fouls out to Kenny Landreau. Big inning. 4 runs for the Braves. They lead 6-2. We'll be right back after these messages. The Dodgers scored 7 runs last night. Their high is a season high of 8 last Sunday against Montreal. But until this week, they had scored 2 runs or less in half of their games. So it will be very difficult for them to come back, and particularly against Rick Mailer. Mariano Duncan popped up in the first inning. And he hammers it foul down the right field line amongst the customers, and the count 1-1. Braves averaging about 20,000 a game. 6 runs, 9 hits for Atlanta. 2 runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. A drag bunt. Mailer can't get it, stopped it, and a good play. At least he slowed it down, recovered, and gets Mariano Duncan.
He stayed right with that ball. A little bit harder, it gets by him, and it's a base hit, but he deflects it just enough, and he didn't quit on it. Had to pull it by him. Watch him just kind of flag it right there. He shovels it over there and gets his man.
Pretty good body control. Thought he was going to fall there, and then he didn't fall until he picked the ball up and flipped it. It was nice to see his brother, Mickey Mailer, come back from the minor leagues and pitch a one-hitter. I think it was his first victory in like 6 years in the big leagues. He pitched a masterpiece against the Giants, only an infield single by Dan Gladden. Ground foul outside of first.
You may have noticed how he's picked up the tempo. Remember, that's part of his theory, is pitch fast, throw strikes. Pitch fast, throw strikes. He doesn't waste any time.
Well, he's leading 6-2. We're in the third inning. Landreau 0 for 1, hit into the force play, and that looked like it was going to be a very big play, and as it turned out, it was. He slices one down the left field line, foul, out of play. That was when Sachs prevented the double play by breaking it up. It allowed Guerrero to come to the plate, and Guerrero hit a 2-run home run. But boy, is that history.
You're going to always see good plays behind pitchers who work in a hurry and throw strikes because the infielders are ready. It's those guys who are tugging at the belt, the cap, and a 3-2 on everybody. Infielders, it's almost like they just take a big whiff of ether.
Interesting you should say that, though, because it appears like things have changed. I remember years ago, the first sign of a kid pitcher, he pitched too fast. And they used to say, you see, he's in too much of a hurry. The adrenaline is pumping. You got to slow him down. Now you got a veteran pitcher like Mailer, and you say, isn't that great? He pitches in a hurry. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Ball 3.
The only thing I would add to that, Vin, is if you're pitching fast with some semblance of rhythm in your pitching fast, fine. But if you're just getting thrown, then you're juiced up and pumped up. Maybe that's a bad expression these days.
3-2. Ground ball to the hole. Hubbard in there to plug it up. Good play by Glenn. Guerrero got a big off-speed pitch coming up from Rick Mailer. And did he ever jump on it in the first inning? He had plenty of time to get everything behind it. Of course, they call this place a launching pad, and for good reason. When things warm up, and it is warmed up in Georgia, the ball has a tendency to fly out of here. 3 home runs last night for the Dodgers, 2 home runs today, 1 by the Dodgers. So we've already had 5 home runs in 11 innings here.
The Braves have now scored 75 runs in Mailer's 15 starts. Why is it some pitchers go out and get a lot of runs?
Call Joaquin Andujar. He'll tell you. Base hit into left. I don't know what Andujar is. I think the last time I read, they get him like 7 runs a game. Not that he isn't a great pitcher, but I mean, he's 10-1, and it's like he has a big bank account. Got runs in escrow.
Some pitchers are like that. Walk out and get a lot of runs.
So with Guerrero at first, and Brock coming up, walked in the first inning. Show you how tough things are going. Here's a kid with power. And on Wednesday, he sacrificed. It was the first time in almost 900 at-bats in the big leagues that he was asked to bunt, and he did. He got it down. But this is his favorite ballpark. He likes to drive here. Ball 1.
900 at-bats, and he is asked to bunt once?
Once. Well, I don't know about asked to bunt. Let's just say he bunted once.
I think I'd file a grievance.
But he hit 4 home runs here last year. Then he hit 1 last night, and he has 7 career home runs against the Braves. 1-1. Hitting .214.
I think Stan Musial with the Cardinals, I think, I'm going from memory, bunted once the whole time I was there.
Really?
I asked Ted Williams. He said he never bunted, except for the base hit in the World Series. I remember that.
Imagine that. Never bunted. Strike 1 and 2. I remember doing a World Series game. Roy Campanella was the hitter, and he bunted early in the game. So the next time he came up with a man on base, I was going through a big, long thing about, well, he had broken his hand, and he had a hand operation, and remember, he bunted. And I was doing that as he hit it over the roof in Ebbets Field. So I don't like to get into elaborate discussions on whether they're going to bunt or not. 1-2 the count. Guerrero at first, 2 down in the third. 6-2 Atlanta. Oh, just missed.
I remember Williams was bunting the World Series because I got 4 hits in that World Series, and 4 of us did. I went out and bought every paper, 7 of them. You know what the headline was?
I can almost see it.
Williams beats Schiff with bunt.
2-2. Got it. So after missing with a fastball, he gets him with a low breaking ball, and they lead Guerrero with his base hit. And at the end of 2.5, Braves 6, Dodgers 2. The bride, and the fact that how relieved and relaxed and at ease he is.
It was a 4-handkerchief job.
Was it really?
Oh, where did you go through it, walking down the center aisle?
Well, he made it. And for all of his friends in the world, I wanted them to know how good you look. Ball 1 to Chris Chambliss. It is 6-2. It's a day in the park here in Fulton County Stadium for the Braves. To right field. 10 hits for Atlanta, and we've just broken the seal on the 3rd inning. So Chambliss, who hit into a double play in the 1st inning, he joins in the act. Means 7 of the last 8 Braves have come to the plate and gotten a base hit.
And if you read Lasorda's book, The Artful Dodger, he'd say, right now you got to deck him. Every other page.
Well, here's Ken Oberkfell getting a chance to start. Oberkfell made a rather succinct observation in the Atlanta clubhouse, showing you where his mind is. He said, I'm playing today. He said, I really got to have a good one. We're getting close to June 15th. And his name is mentioned constantly in possible trades. Oberkfell, by the way, does his best work here in Georgia. Kenny's hitting over 340 at home and barely over 240 on the road. Of course, the rap against Oberkfell, and Whitey Herzog said it, the fact he doesn't drive in any runs. Oberkfell has 6 RBIs so far this year. 1 ball and no strikes to Kenny. Chambliss doesn't figure to run, but we have already seen the Braves play hit and run. And we have seen them steal a base. Claudell Washington. There's a drive into right and deep. It's hooking over the head of Marshall and short hopping the wall. Chambliss is on his way to 3rd. It's a double for Oberkfell. So Kenny Oberkfell, who hits just under 400 in his career at this stadium, continues to rip away.
He takes a big, hard swing at it. It looks like it was his home run swing, but he's got that warning track power, and Marshall plays the short hop off the fence, and it's a 2-base hit.
The Braves are just eating the Dodgers up. Every Brave has a base hit. Washington and Ramirez have 2 each. They have 11 hits in 2 innings. Breaking ball missed. You know, Oberkfell, whom you just saw double, has a lifetime batting average of just under 290, and that's after 8 years. So you know he's a good hitter. And he doubles Chambliss to 3rd. Now here's Hubbard. Right. 1-1 the count.
This is one of those games when, of course, if you're behind, you're moaning, but the umpire behind the plate, and I know John's got to be moaning back there. Hot, a lot of pitches, long innings.
Monty Basco was telling Brock to go back a step. There was nobody out, he was saying. The pitch fouled away. The infield halfway. Hubbard, a good man to have up there because he makes contact. He has only struck out a dozen times. That's about 10% of the time. So with nobody out, 2nd and 3rd, an ideal hitter. 6-2 Atlanta in the 3rd inning. Fouled away. Glenn Hubbard, who looks about 10 years younger now that he has shaved off that beard. Born over in Europe, Hahn Air Force Base. Scrappy little guy. 1-2 to Glenn. Oberkfell at second and Chambliss down the line from third. Fastball, 2-2. The Dodgers, I think, waving to Mike Marshall, who's too deep, and that's Amalfitano telling him to come up a few steps. Mike is still pretty deep for a smallish right-handed batter. You can get a perspective on where Marshall is, and a little right-hand hitter at the plate. But he has some socks.
Who likes to hit that way?
Yeah. Of course, he'd like to come up and get Oberkfell at the plate. Breaking ball punch to Sachs. The runners have to hold. So they get the contact, but that's all. 1 out. And the batter will be the catcher, Larry Owen. Owen with a single and a double last night, marking his return from Richmond. And then they played hit and run with Larry, and he singled into right field as Sachs had broken to cover with Hubbard going. So Larry Owen has certainly endeared himself in his brief appearances here in Atlanta.
And they talk about him having a pretty good arm, so even though they say, well, when the other two guys are ready, he'll go back to Richmond, I'm just not so sure.
Yeah, that's right. So second and third, 1 out, 6-2 Atlanta. One and 0. Larry's from Cleveland. He's been up and down 3 times before with Atlanta, never to stay. He went to school at Bowling Green. Makes his home in Columbus, Ohio. 2-0.
Has nothing to do with this game, but I think Pat Corrales, the Cleveland manager, has to get an award for honesty when they talked about the Cleveland bats being corked. And he said the bats aren't corked, but I have some players with corked heads.
They're going to put Larry Owen aboard. Well, look at Cleveland. They've lost 8 out of 10. They are 18 and a half games out, and they have played 53 games. That's a tough way to go. So the bases will be loaded, and a good hitting pitcher coming up. Amalfitano, Lasorda, and Basville reading right to left. And Sachs in there talking to Babo Castillo. The bases loaded, 1 out. Mailer looped a single to center despite a diving attempt by Pedro Guerrero. Mailer with 5 runs batted in, picked up his 6th in the second inning. The Dodger infield now in double play depth. Anderson is about even with the bag at third, everybody else back. Breaking ball lifted to right. Tagging up is Chambliss. That's a pretty deep throw for Marshall. He's going to go to third as Chambliss scores. And it is 7-2 Atlanta as Mailer gets him home.
I'd like to just make a comment about that piece of hitting. I'm just sitting here and I'm saying to myself, Mailer knows he's going to get a curveball the first time up because they're looking for the ground ball. Most pitchers would take it. I got to believe he went up there saying, if he throws me a curveball, I'm going to try to get under and just try to get a fly ball. That was a good piece of hitting.
So one of the better hitting pitchers in the National League. I would take Rick Mailer and maybe Rick Rhoden of Pittsburgh as 2 of the top with the bat. And it is 7-2 Atlanta. And Washington hits a fly ball to right. That sounded better than it was. It sounded like he was going to hit it up into the seats. So the Braves add 1, and at the end of 3, Atlanta 7, Los Angeles 2, and Castillo heads for the safety of the dugout. Stone, England, plus the All-Ireland Hurling Championship and the International Skydiving Championship. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. in Los Angeles only on NBC Sports World.
You ever seen a hurling game?
Yes.
You ever playing one?
No.
That is the toughest game I have never... They had one in New York, Yonkers, I think it was, and I was there, and the guy's laying on the ground bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody stops. They keep running past him. Get up.
Yeah,
help the team.
The Irish have a word which I guess is the same for festival called feis, F-E-I-S. And when they have a feis, They'll have hurling, and you just can't believe what goes on. Here's Mike Marshall, then Mike Scioscia, and Dave Anderson. It's interesting today, you take the Dodgers 5, 6, and 7 hitters, Brock, Marshall, and Scioscia. Collectively, they only have 7 hits in their last 65 at-bats. Last night, you looked at the Atlanta lineup, and you went from Kaminsky to Hubbard. You had 5 hitters collectively who had only 3 hits in their last 68 at-bats. Well, you talk about hungry lineup. 1-1. Fouled away. But, boy, the Braves have broken out today. 7 runs, 11 hits. The Dodgers 2 runs, 3 hits. One and 2. Well, that takes care of Mike. So Marshall, like Dale Murphy, battling a big slump, and he goes down on strikes. So Rick Mailer, whose high, as we said, is only 5 strikeouts against Philadelphia. He has 2 now, and they're consecutive. Ball 1. Scioscia walked in the 2nd inning. You have a good combination here. A contact hitter against a pitcher who throws strikes. 1-1.
Ben, you know, usually you measure a pitcher by his control, by his base on balls, but there's another yardstick that you use that I think is even better. Show me a pitcher who doesn't run the count to 3-1, 3-2. I mean, the guy who, when he gets 2-2 on the batter, and he puts good stuff on it, because then if he goes to 3-2, you know, he lays a good fastball in, the hitter gets a good swing. Mailer doesn't have many 3-1, 3-2 counts.
Although he did make an unusual number of pitches in the 1st inning, didn't he?
He did, but in his 3-1 counts, he's only had 1 today. 3-2, he's only been 3-2 on 2.
With a 5-run lead, that ought to give him encouragement to throw some strikes, too. There's a comebacker off his glove, slowed down on the grass. Hubbard on it, but can't make a play. So Scioscia bounces one off Mailer's glove for a 1-out single.
Looked like Mailer was going to make the play. He was in pretty good position. Thought he had it, but he just deflects it, but it gets by him far enough that Scioscia, with a great burst of speed as a catcher, makes it.
Mailer's 6-1, so he went up the ladder as high as he could get. And Scioscia aboard with a single, and that'll bring up Dave Anderson. 7-2 Braves. We're in the 4th inning. Hopped into right field, and Washington had trouble with it, but it's high enough for him to come in. He instinctively went back. The ball was not hit hard. You know, acoustically, balls sound better in this stadium and don't go anywhere. It's like Washington's fly ball in the 3rd. It sounded like it was a cannon shot, and that ball that was just hit by Anderson sounded better than it was.
Certain ballparks do that. You know, I always thought the best ballpark for that was the old Shibe Park. You'd hit a ball there, and it'd sound like a cannon going off, and it'd be a little dribbler to the second baseman. But you felt good. Sounded good. But then again, you went up to hit, not go to a concert.
There's Bobo Castillo. So it's a tip-off with 2 out and a runner aboard. Having used his bullpen last night and early this morning, Lasorda is going to stay with Castillo a while. They used Niedenfuhr, Castillo, and Howell in that game that took until 2 o'clock this morning. 1-2. I think the latest I was ever in a ballpark was years ago, Forbes Field. They had a bolt of lightning hit a transformer, and I think we were in the park till about 2:30, and then last night. Meanwhile, Castillo has his lights turned out here in the 4th inning by Rick Mailer, who has struck out 3, and at the end of 3.5, 7-2 Atlanta. The season with a doubleheader. In the first game, the Dodgers and the Astros in Houston. The second half, viewers will watch the world champion Detroit Tigers in Yankee Stadium to play New York. Others will see the Chicago White Sox in California taking on the Angels. Coverage begins at 1 Eastern with Major League Baseball, an inside look. The tradition is here. The memories are waiting on NBC Sports. Rafael Ramirez with a double and a 3-run home run. 0-1. This is the home run that really KO'd Orel Hershiser as he hit it out despite Landro's all-out efforts to get it.
Ramirez is a funny kind of a guy. I mean, got a great sense of humor. I said, boy, you're really hitting the ball. He said, yeah, and in the Dominican Republic, they would say, boy, is he sick?
He is sick with that right elbow wrap from the cortisone. Maybe he got a little Popeye spinach in there as well. Strike, 2-1. You know, on that replay of the home run, it's funny how the mind is. Saw Landro going back to the fence. The first thought I had in watching Landro was Henry Aaron's famous home run here against Al Downing. Breaking ball, a one-hopper, each Duncan up. If you remember that Monday night game, Al Downing pitching to Henry Aaron, and Bill Buckner climbed the wire fence. Couldn't catch it. Tom House did, and Henry Aaron had passed Babe Ruth.
Did you ever see so many people around home plate as when Aaron crossed it?
Including his parents. It's an error charge to Mariano Duncan. That snaps a string. The Dodgers had gone 7 consecutive games without an error. Somebody went back and looked it up. The Dodger record, 1979. They went 11 straight. Duncan, as you can see, the Dodger shortstop's making a lot of errors. However, that reminds me, isn't it? Julio Franco has that many errors all by himself, I believe. 19. Dale Murphy struck out and singled, 1 for 2. And there goes Ramirez on a hit-and-run fly ball to Guerrero. The Dodgers try to decoy Ramirez, but he wouldn't go for it. Sachs trying to put on an act that it was a ground ball. So Murphy flies to center, 1 away. Although neither team has that much to talk about, the San Francisco Giants had a chance to take a shot at the Dodgers defense. The Dodgers lead the majors in errors. The Giants had a cap day promotion, and they said the caps are ventilated in honor of the Dodgers infield. What a dirty shot.
Baseball humor can be vicious.
Oh. 1 away, and here's Terry Harper. Yeah, you better learn to take it.
You remember last year when they were voting Rookie of the Year, and they asked Herzog, and Whitey said, I'm going to vote for Gooden because Franco let in more runs than Gooden did. Samuel, I mean.
Yeah, Samuel. 1 ball and no strikes.
Hey, they get you. Bench jockeying is a lost art, though, Vin. I don't hear much of it when I look at the benches now.
Well, you know, when you think about it now, the players themselves are so realistic. How about Guerrero last year when he was playing third? They said, what goes through your mind in a close game? And he said, I pray they don't hit the ball to me, and I pray they don't hit the ball to Sachs. It's a ground foul outside of third. Yeah, it's the only way to live with it. Well, Harper's a classic case. He's been struggling. You can see the Braves grounding into double plays. The Red Sox have 82 grounded into 171 double plays. But you can understand it. Playing a lot in Fenway, you're really going for that bomb. 2-1. Check swing foul. 2 balls, 2 strikes. It is 7-2 Atlanta. And we're in the bottom of the 4th inning. Each side scored 2 in the first, and Atlanta came up with 4 in the 2nd inning. Boy, look at that.
Right at the cameraman.
Ramirez, a double, a 3-run home run, and a board on the error. Two and 2. Brock holding a corner, 1 away. Check foul. 2 balls and 2 strikes the count to Terry. Chris Chambliss to follow. Harper, as we mentioned earlier, is having a pretty productive early portion of the year. He has 22 RBIs. He had 8 in the games he played all last year. And he's getting a chance to play. Terry now is starting his 21st consecutive game in left field.
Eddie House was talking about how strong he is and that he hit a home run off to Colby that hit Nakahoma's teepee way out there in left field. And that's a long way.
Sure is. Upstairs and above the crowd. It is well out of the way, and yet he was able to reach it. Harper's the kid who dislocated his shoulder. There's Nakahoma's tent way out and left. He dislocated his shoulder waving a runner home. That's called overenthusiasm. 3-2 to Terry. Bobo Castillo asked to pick up the pieces. Oral Hershiser went out on his shield. He went an inning and 2/3, and for the first and only time this year, he was really roughed up. 6 runs, 8 hits, including the bomb by Ramirez, who is at first now with 1 out in the 4th. And goes. Breaking ball hit to the hole, base hit. And Ramirez will hold on at second as Landreau charging the ball. So the Braves are opening up the store again. They're in business. 4 hits off Castillo. And the batter will be Chris Chambliss.
Ball, it just plugs the gap. You couldn't have laid it there if you had surveyed the area. So Harper has himself his second base hit.
Well, everybody's been in the candy store, everyone with at least 1 hit, and Washington, Ramirez, and Harper each have 2. And, of course, Ramirez has the 3-run home run. So it's all Atlanta right now.
These are tough times for a catcher to go out there because about all you want to do is take a roll call. See how many guys, anybody hurt? Because every time you turn around, it's a line drive. And I may not be too far off to say maybe Lasorda asked Castillo, say, hey, look, pitching is in bad shape. Would you mind standing out there and taking the beating? Managers have been known to do that.
Carlos Diaz got up in the pen once, threw a couple of times, and then sat down, and they allowed Castillo to bat for himself, remember? And he struck out in the top of this 4th inning. So here is Chambliss, son of a Navy chaplain, hit into a double play and single. Big Chris 1 for 2, hitting .220. Check swing, a little roller to Anderson. He'll have to go to first base, and everybody moves up 90 feet. So over to third goes Ramirez. Stopping at second is Harper. And with 2 down, the batter will be Ken Oberkfell, who grounded to Brock and doubled to right. His double was against Castillo, and it sent Chambliss to third. One and 0 the count. The Braves are playing their second game of their longest homestand of the year. It's a 14-game stand. And the Dodgers are playing their second game of a 9-game road trip. And that's hit to center. Guerrero is there. And that'll be that. So there's an error, a base hit, and 2 left at the end of 4. It's 7-2 Atlanta. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Fulton County Stadium, where it is all Georgia. It is 7-2 Atlanta. And the Dodgers trying to come back will have Sachs, Duncan, and Landreau. Strike. The Dodgers scored twice on a 2-run home run by Guerrero. The Braves answered with 2 runs on 3 hits to get even. And the Braves added 4 in the second, 1 in the third. Oh, what a big, slow rainbow that thing was. No balls and 2 strikes. Rick Mailer with 3 strikeouts in 4 innings. 1-2. It was interesting earlier this year when the St. Louis Cardinals came here to Atlanta. They flooded the base paths to try and slow down the Cardinal running attack. And Whitey Herzog, instead of perhaps getting ticked off, said I'd have done the same thing. But he said, wait till they come to St. Louis. We'll run on them no matter what the score is. Slow curve fouled away. It brings back memories of the Dodgers Giants. Maury Wills, Alvin Dark
Dark
managing the Giants, and they flooded the infield at Candlestick. And since he was from Louisiana, we referred to Dark as the Swamp Fox, General Francis Marion. Little number to shortstop. Rafael Ramirez will take care of sacks. Let's leave Atlanta and go to the Big Apple and get an update in the concrete canyons of New York.
All right, Vin, the Cubs have finally broken the scoreless tie against the Pirates in the bottom of the 5th with 2 out. Chris Farr with a shot to center. Bill Allman can't get there, but does a nice job throwing out Bull Durham at 3rd. However, 2 runs scored in the bottom of the 6th. It's 2-0 Cubs.
And we are back here in the deep cotton, or the tall cotton. And the Braves leading 7-2 with 1 out, and here is Mariano Duncan. Popped up, thrown out, trying to drag his way aboard. Ground ball to the right side, wrestled to a fall by Glenn Hubbard. Good play by Glenn. That thing was hit hard. He just refused to give up. He was going to smother it, if nothing else.
That was a 2-hopper, and it still gets him. He gets it on the short hop, but he gets right in front of it. He was going to make sure it wouldn't get by him. Good aggressive play.
So Glenn Hubbard holding his ground in the face of a hot shot there in the 5th inning, and with 2 out, here's Kenny Landreau. Hit into a force play, grounded out 0 for 2. 7 runs, 12 hits for Atlanta. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers, and that's a foul ball back and out of play. 0-1.
I'm not keeping track of pitches this inning, but I think he's only made 4. I mean, he's around that plate, and you notice he's ready to pitch right now, which makes the infielders, they're ready to go.
I don't know how long ago the cliche was first started about a comfortable collar, but I would say Mailer will give you a comfortable collar.
Comfortable collars are said by people who have never worn them.
Well, I'm quoting players who first told me that.
What players told you about comfort?
Duke Snyder told me once about talking about a pitcher who shall remain nameless, saying that, yeah, he gives you a comfortable collar. Honest.
Duke played every day.
Would I lie to you?
No, you wouldn't.
No.
And I believe everything you say, even from Georgia to the concrete canyons.
1 and 2. Bull Durham.
Who was just thrown out at 3rd in the update.
See how things work together?
Oh, you gotta work as a team.
And that's what Mailer is doing, looking into Larry Owen. 2 balls and 2 strikes to count. It is 7-2 Atlanta. 5th inning, 2 out, bases empty. Big bouncer and a comebacker to Mailer, and see you later. He made that easy. He's retired 5 in a row, and at the end of 4.5 innings, Atlanta 7, the Dodgers 2. It'll be Glenn Hubbard who made a good play on that hard hit ball by Duncan. Hubbard followed by Owen and then Mailer, and Bobo Castillo, who had to come in the 2nd inning. And he is asked to pitch a while today, unless the Dodger bats can make a sort of change. Hubbard has singled, grounded out 1 for 2. 4-1, 1-0. Hubbard started the parade of base hits with 1 out in the 2nd inning. He singled to left, and that was the first of 6 consecutive hits by the Braves. The 5th hit in a row was the 3-run home run by Ramirez.
Could hear Castillo say, why? I bet McSherry said, because I said so.
2-0. In there. 2-1. Two-one pitch. So Castillo has fallen behind 3-1. Castillo has been in 11 games, and he averages only about 2 innings an appearance. He's working 3 innings already. High fly ball and deep. Back goes Landreau to the track at the wall. Makes the play. So Hubbard takes him deep to left, 1 away in the 5th inning.
Just for something to do, Vin, I put a stopwatch on Castillo so I can use it as a comparison to Mailer. And from the time he gets the ball and delivers it, he's been 9.9978. Seconds, yeah. So you see what Mailer does.
Okay.
Something to do
Good
with the
idea.
ballpark.
Yeah, right.
Really not earth-shattering, but, you know.
No. Remember when they used to put the clock on the pitcher as far as to trying to speed up play?
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Here's Larry Owen, single to right, was thrown out at the plate. That's why he's muddied around the knees. And he was walked intentionally in the third inning. 1 ball and no strike to Larry. Mike Marshall threw him out in case you weren't with us in the second inning. Mike Scioscia laid a great block on him. Whacked foul. Talking about great block. What was the loudest your bell was rung when you were catching, Joe?
Jim Greengrass hit me.
Cincinnati?
And I got kicked out of the game. Hit me in Cubs Park. Never forget it. I had to go to the hospital. I'm laying down by the screen. My shin guards are 40 feet away. And Dascoli says, if you got the ball, he's out. I said, got the ball? I haven't even got my shin guards, you big dummy.
Jim Greengrass, outfielder, Cincinnati. Big breaking ball, ball 2.
Oh, should have had a license plate instead of a number. You could hear him coming, like the 515 out of Grand Central. Da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum.
There
What's
you
the
are.
difference if you lose 9-2 is 8-2?
2-1, ball 3.
Oh, do I remember that? And you know what I remember about it? It was the ball that Semenuk bunted.
Andy Semenuk
And Bob
bunted?
Rush picked it up and rolled it to me, and I could almost see on Bob Rush's face, good luck.
3-1 is good luck there as Larry Owen takes one at the chops. So a 1-out pass to Larry Owen. Take another look.
High and tight, moves him back, down he goes. I'd bunt Mailer right now just to keep him off the bases.
Yeah, they sure don't need him to hit. It's a very hot, humid day here. Mailer, a single and a scoring fly ball. He has 2 RBIs today. Ramirez has 3. Harper has the other 2. Ball 1. Mailer had a base hit to score Hubbard in the second inning. He'll check now with Bobby Wine. And then he had the fly ball to right to pick up Chambliss in the third. 1 ball, no strikes. And he bunts it foul. 1 ball, 1 strike. 7-2 Atlanta in the 5th inning. Tomorrow in the concluding game of the series, it'll be a rookie just called up, Steve Shields, a right-hander, going for Atlanta. And the Dodgers will come back with Fernando Valenzuela. Shields up from Richmond. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. It's going to cost him a strike. So they took the bunt off. You know, it's amazing. Rick Mailer has more RBIs than Gerald Perry, 1 RBI less than Chambliss and Kaminsky. So you wonder why the Braves are struggling. Bunting with 2 strikes, and he comes up empty. So 2 down. Mailer now can go back and rest. And the batter will be Claudell Washington. In talking about the pitching pairings tomorrow to show you a trend in the game, Fernando Valenzuela, pitching for the Dodgers, has 6 complete games. If you took Atlanta, Houston, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh and combined them, they have 7 complete games. That's kind of shocking, isn't it? Strike to Claudell. 3 home runs in his last 5 games. He was struggling, hitting about 150, and he's 2 for 3 today. Single to center, single to right. 1-1. Washington has been around. To illustrate that point, he needs only 8 more hits, and he'll have 1,500 in his career. And he's coming up to 5,000 at-bats in the big league. So there are, count the rings on the oak tree. 2-1 the count. Three and 1 to Claudell. Oh, Bobo Castillo. He's pulling the wagon. Oral Hershiser KO'd in the second inning, and they just saddled up Bobo and said, it's yours. And it's 7-2 Atlanta. 3-2. You still timing him?
Interesting, when a man got on base, he's been running 18, 24,
Wow.
20. Kind of dragging. He's up to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And the runner goes on ball 4. Now remember, as we mentioned, Castillo's been averaging only about 2 innings in appearance. He's walked 3, struck out 1, and he might be having that needle on empty. Let's check a couple of other games while Lasorda and Amalfitano and Basgall check Castillo. The Cardinals knocked off the Mets 1-0. Detroit finally did a number on Toronto, beat them 10-1. Right. And the Yankees and Milwaukee scoreless in the 8th inning. The Cubs and the Mets started the day tied, and the Cubs are leading Pittsburgh, a comebacker to Castillo. So the Cubs could wind up in first place by a game in the National League East if they can hold on to their lead against the Pirates. Meanwhile, we've got 5 innings in the books, and Atlanta leading the Dodgers 7-2. And singles at the French Open. Yvonne Lendl and Mats Wilander vying for this prestigious title. Coverage getting underway tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern. Viewers on the West Coast, check your local listings for the time in your area. It is over 100 degrees in Paris today, and as far as Bobo Castillo is concerned, it must feel like it's over 100 here in Atlanta, although it is not that hot. But Bobo has had to extend himself, and it's obvious that he is being taxed.
Bill Buehler was just giving him the Windex treatment. He was giving him little spritzers all over to try to cool him down. He's got a jacket over his right arm to keep warm, but I would think if you shook hands with your bullpen catcher, you'd be as hot as you want to get.
Talking about the bullpen, there's nobody throwing down there. Though unless the Dodger hitters do something against Mailer, Castillo apparently is going to be in there for the long ride. Guerrero hit a 2-run home run in the first inning. He had a 2-out single in the third. He homered last night. He's hitting .282 with 8 home runs, 24 RBIs. And Larry Owen wants to go out and talk to Mailer. It is interesting. A week ago, Lasorda moved Guerrero from third base to center field. And from that movement, Guerrero has just come alive with the bat. To further put a supplemental note to that statement about the Braves, Mailer is the only starting pitcher for Atlanta to get into the 9th inning. He went 8 1/3 innings in the middle of April against San Diego. And outside of Mailer and his 8 victories, the other starters collectively have won only 3 games. Three and 1 to count to Guerrero. Starting things off in the 6th. Facing a control pitcher who has walked 2.
Guerrero won't let him get into his routine. He has backed him out a couple times. Pedro wants to hit when he's ready, not when Mailer's ready. Now Mailer backs off, and he's going to take Guerrero out of his routine.
And I wonder where Al Roboski is right now.
I don't know, somewhere making faces.
Remember how he used to walk around back in the mound?
Yeah.
Drive the hitters crazy. On the edge, 3 and 2. Three balls and 2 strikes to Pedro Guerrero, followed by Greg Brock and then Mike Marshall. Fastball rolled to short. Rafael Ramirez kind of threw a sailor. Gambler stayed with it, 1 away. So 1 down. Greg Brock will be the batter. Talking about Mailer and Guerrero trying to break each other's rhythm. How about a dream match? How about Al Roboski pitching to Mike Hargrove? You think they would ever hook up?
They would tie that rain delay you had last night.
Brock in a slump, 1 for 16. That 1 was the home run he hit last night. He hit it against left-hander Dave Schuler in the 8th inning. He has walked and struck out today. 1-1. Tommy Lasorda, all he can do is wait and hope that his hitters can do something. As we mentioned, the Dodgers have not been much of a run-producing team at all this year. Fly ball to Murphy. 2 down. So Brock, fly ball, and that means 7 in a row retired. The one to break the string was that comebacker by Socia that went off Mailer's glove for a base hit. So outside of the home run by Guerrero, the Dodgers have been limited to just 2 hits. Now here's Mike Marshall. Ground ball to Ramirez. So the Dodgers tiptoe through the 6th, 8 in a row retired by Rick Mailer. And at the end of 5.5 innings, Atlanta 7 and the Dodgers 2. 112 paid last night. But after a 35-minute delay and a 2-hour and 52-minute delay, they probably had a couple of hundred people left in the park and a goodly crowd again today.
And can I mention a guy I know is watching, a good friend of mine, George Back, who's in Miami at the hospital. And George, I hope you get to feeling better. Just think, you could be over here pitching against these guys.
Well, here's a guy we just had a quick look at, Bruce Sutter, who might just as well be doing shark patrol duty in the Mississippi for what he's done here in Atlanta. He has 9 saves. They just haven't given him any opportunities. 0-2. Bobby Wine. Remember when he played with Philadelphia with Cookie Rojas, and you could say it was the days of Wine and Rojas? You don't remember those?
No, I don't remember those days.
Or you're trying to forget them. 0-2 to count. Dale Murphy. Fouled away.
I like the one about the receding hairline. That was a good one. Tell that one again. About these line of rabbits.
Yeah, that's for the kids. When you go to school Monday, you can say, what do you call a group of rabbits dancing backwards? And the answer is a receding hairline. 1-2. Hello, operator.
Yes. No, that's one of my favorites. No, that's going to make Thursday Night Live.
Okay, Murphy, Harper, and Chambliss in the 6th inning. Well, if somebody would only do something down there. Bobo's trying. I mean, he's leaking from every pore.
Oh, I'm telling you, he's been leaking oil for 2 innings. He reminds you of watching the Indy 500 when they come into the pits and when A.J. Foyt got upset, you know. I mean, he's doing all he can. Look at him. That face says it all.
3-2. So Bobo Castillo had to come in the 2nd inning. He had to come in the 9th inning, which meant 1:30 this morning. And he walked 2 batters. So he's put in some days. 7-2 Atlanta, bottom of the 6th inning. Breaking ball missed, and Murph is aboard. So Castillo has now walked 4. Now he'll be looking at Terry Harper, who has single, fouled out, and single, 2 for 3. I'd like to remind you, a little later in the game, we'll be presenting this week's NBC Light Beer from Miller Player of the Game Award. We've got a ways to go. Breaking ball hit down to Mariano Duncan, forced to Sachs, who has to run for his life, as Murphy making sure they weren't going to get 2 with Harper. You can see the skid marks.
Kind of slow in developing, and Sachs realizes how close Murphy is, so he's, I'm just going to get out of here.
So Murphy does his job. He takes Sachs out of the play. And here's Chris Chambliss, hit into a double play, single to right and grounded to third. Chambliss 1 for 3. Breaking ball hit to Sachs. They have a shot at 2 here. Duncan, Brock, and that'll do it. So Chambliss hits into his second double play of the day. And at the end of 6, Atlanta 7 and the Dodgers 2. And we'll be right back. If this one, the Braves pulled off against the Cardinals. Steve Bedrosian pitching to Jack Clark. Vince Coleman at second. Willie McGee at first. Line drive off the hip of Bedrosian. Deflected to a diving Paul Zuvella. That's 1 out. Zuvella straightens up. A little flip to Glenn Hubbard. And they double up Vince Coleman. And had it been another out needed, they had Willie McGee right there at the bag. And here's Mike Scioscia. Scioscia has walked and singled off Mailer's glove. They're getting down to Castillo's spot, and Lasorda is thinking hitter now. And he has Carlos Diaz in the bullpen. 7-2 Atlanta in the 7th inning. There's Carlos Diaz getting ready. So Lasorda knows that Castillo did his job. He allowed just 1 run. There's a little roller to third. Oberkfell against a lumbering Scioscia has plenty of time. 1 away.
It was weird the way that ball went out there, like he hit it with a wet sporting news or something. I mean, it sounded soft, it looked soft, it was soft.
Dave Anderson will be the batter down in the Dodger dugout, marking his return from the DL. He is eligible, and he's just put a helmet on. Al Oliver has been stirring around. So Oliver coming back after a lengthy absence. This is kind of an interesting day and date in Dodger history, and for that matter, baseball history, too. It was on this date when Don Drysdale snapped Walter Johnson's record of 56 scoreless innings against the Philadelphia Phillies. Drysdale finally gave up a run after 58 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings. Two and two the count to Dave Anderson. 1 out, 7th inning, 7-2 Atlanta. Off speed, and it's hit to left, and Harper has it land in front of him. So Anderson hits that slow freight into left field. R.J. Reynolds started up out of the Dodger dugout, but he's going back in, and Terry Whitfield and Al Oliver move around, and Oliver is going to be the one coming up. So they had R.J. Reynolds out there, evidently with 2 out and the bases empty. R.J. was going to bat. He has a bad leg. But where there could be a force play or a double play, they'll have R.J. sit down, and Al Oliver coming off the DL. He went on at May the 18th, and he was hitting .343. So he's been on that list for 3 weeks. And Oliver now will hit for Castillo. So Babo Castillo went 4 1/3 and allowed just 1 run. The Dodgers trying to do something against Rick Mailer. Mailer has limited them to 2 runs and 5 hits. And actually the 2 runs on the home run by Guerrero with a man aboard in the 1st inning. Al Oliver, 9 straight years he's hit .300. 11 times in his career he has hit .300. 4-1.
Never really been given the credit for being the good hitter that he is.
I guess because he doesn't hit very many home runs.
Wherever he's played, he has hit.
Boy, and how you look back, and he's played in a lot of places. He spent a big time in Pittsburgh, then Texas, Montreal, San Francisco, Philadelphia, and for the Dodgers he flies to left. So Al Oliver, a fly ball to Terry Harper. That marks Oliver's return. A veteran of over 16 years in the big leagues. In case you wonder, and we talk about the fact he doesn't hit home runs, he has a major league total of 214 home runs. Might surprise you.
Not too shabby.
No. Dodger pinch hitters have really cooled off after an early piece of brilliance They've now had 2 hits in their last 33 at-bats. That's about 50 cents collectively as a batting average. Ball 1. Anderson at first, 2 out in the 7th inning, 7-2 Atlanta. Sachs trying to get aboard. Mariano Duncan on deck. Sachs singled, grounded out twice. Strike. 2-1. So 3-1 to Sachs, who has a look at Joe Amalfitano. Miller has walked 2 and struck out 3. He's pretty much on his game in that area. Strike. So a full count with 2 down, and that'll turn Anderson loose. Chambliss playing back of him at first. Braves with a comfortable 5-run lead. Anderson goes. Strike 3 call. Looked like a little slider on the corner. And that is strikeout number 4 for Rick Mailer, despite the protestations of Steve Sachs. And it's 7-2 Atlanta. Here's another edition of Baseball Remembers as Sachs forgets. Still running his string to 58 of 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings, and to balance the scale and the books on this day in Atlanta history, June the 8th of '61. The Braves hit 4 consecutive home runs against Cincinnati. And look at those names: Eddie Matthews, Henry Aaron, Joe Adcock, and Frank Thomas. Pretty good crew. And on April the 8th at Monday night, Al Downing pitching. Henry hit it over the left field wall. Bill Buckner tried to climb the screen, couldn't catch it. Tom House did in the bullpen. I think, if I remember correctly, House got a big television set, didn't he, for catching that home run ball?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Fireworks went off. Henry's mom and dad came out on the field. It was some kind of place. So it's a pretty good day, as baseball remembers. Bottom of the 7th inning, Ken Oberkfell, Glenn Hubbard, and Larry Owen. And it'll be Carlos Diaz working now for the Dodgers. Ball 1. Diaz, born in Honolulu, been up and down. Came over in a deal with the New York Mets. Strike.
Did you see in the Sporting News where Tom Selleck wrote to Sid Fernandez he wants a Mets cap instead of that Detroit cap he's been wearing?
Really?
Boy, you talk about shockwaves going through the baseball world.
1-1. How soon they forget.
Oh, man, Big Tom, come on.
Oberkfell is grounded out, double to right, and fly to center. Everybody in the Braves lineup with a base hit. Ground ball to Brock, and he'll wave his pitcher away. Let us go to an air-conditioned studio in New York. Bill?
Hi, Vin. In Chicago, the Cubs have started to break it open against the Pirates. In the bottom of the 7th, Chris Spire with a 2-run home run. The Cubs have so far gotten 4 in the 7th, and they now lead the struggling Pirates by a score of 6-0.
Well, back here with a breath of hot air in the bottom of the 7th. Atlanta leading the Dodgers 7-2. 1 out, and here's Glenn Hubbard. Ball 1. Hubbard, single to left, grounded to second, flied to left, scored a run, and he's handled himself well afield at second base. Like Carlos kind of turned that over. He is experimenting, as you can imagine. If you're on a team with Fernando Valenzuela and Bobo Castillo, you figure eventually you're going to start learning to throw the screwball. Fly ball into left field and deep. Landro says he has it, however, on the track. So 2 down in the 7th inning. The batter will be Larry Owen. This telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Moving day apparently in the Eastern Division. The Mets lost 1-0, and the Cubs are breezing against Pittsburgh. Looks like the Cubbies will take over and lead by a game. San Diego's at Cincinnati tonight. They're leading the Reds by 3.5. In the American League, Detroit knocked off Toronto. Baltimore began when they take the field tonight against Boston. They'll be 6 back of Toronto. And California and Kansas City, they play each other tonight. Kansas City a half a game back of the Angels. Well, that takes care of Larry Owens. A very quiet inning for Atlanta hitters and a good job for Carlos Diaz. And at the end of 7, it is Atlanta 7 and the Dodgers 2. And it had really been a struggle for him. Here's a kid the Braves expect great things from, including a lot of power. And he has over 100 at-bats in the early going and still looking for his first home run. So they'll try to keep him sharp and maybe get an at-bat or two, and Eddie Haas puts him in there. Mariano Duncan, 0 for 3. Popped up, tried to drag for a base hit, and was thrown out on the one ball he hit hard by Glenn Hubbard. And he hits it foul. So Duncan 0 for 3, hitting .245. Rick Mailer working in the 8th inning. Remember, not only is Rick the only Braves pitcher to get into the 9th inning, the only starting pitcher, he's also the only Braves pitcher to get into the 8th inning. He did that on the 18th of May, and they haven't had one get that far since. So it's really been a struggle for the starters. Ground ball to Hubbard. 1 away.
Made 112 pitches, Vin, so I would say he's still fairly strong.
Yeah, that's a nice thing about his control and the fact he doesn't strike out too many. He has good play by Hubbard back of him. He has walked 2, struck out 4. He's not overly extended, and leading by 5, he's just going to throw strikes.
He's the perfect ad for the wholesale pitcher. I mean by that, make 3 pitches for 3 outs rather than 9 pitches for 3 outs if you struck out everybody.
1-0, just outside. Landreau followed by Guerrero. Line drive into slight left center. Murphy over to run it down, and it gets under his backhanded attempt. So Landreau will be going for 3. I'm surprised. Ramirez overfell late. Down by 5, 1 out in the 8th, but Landreau kept on going. He didn't really get a sign. He didn't get a come sign or a stop from Amalfitano. And watch Murphy.
He went with that pitch, the outside part of the plate. It looks like Murphy's going to backhand it, just doesn't get it down low enough and ends up kicking it actually against that fence. Luckily he hits the cutoff man, but not in time to get Landreau.
Interesting picture there. You see where the third base umpire was, Billy Williams, and you can see Amalfitano in a crouch guiding Landreau to slide. Ball 1. A lot of times the third base coach will not only get in a crouch, but he will also lean to give the runner a direction in which to slide. It'll be a double for Landreau, takes third on the error charge to Dale Murphy. 1 ball and no strikes. And that's a fly ball to right center. Murph coming and over. Almost collides with Cummins. And here comes Landreau to score. So it is Atlanta 7 and the Dodgers 3.
Then we have official word that Washington left the game because he jammed his wrist going into second base.
That's when he stole second. He had a base hit. So the rare stolen base for the Atlanta Braves, and don't you know, it would lead to an injury. And for Claudel Washington, who had been hitting about 150 in his last few games, he returns to the lineup, has 2 singles, and then hurts himself. There's a base hit, and that's in the gap. Murphy trying to run it down, and Brock is going to stretch. And the throw, he is in there. So Greg Brock just does double up the gap in right center.
The ball is well hit. some daring base running because you really have to be sure that you're going to make it to second base if you're going to take off. And this play was much closer than I'm sure Lasorda liked it. But he is safe. The throw was off just enough to allow Brock into second base.
So Brock, following the scoring fly ball, Guerrero has knocked in all 3 Dodger runs, and returning from doing his shark patrol duty in the Mississippi, Bruce Sutter finally has a chance perhaps to save a game. It is 7-3, and that one is hit down the right field line, fouled and out of play. 0-1. So Bruce Sutter throwing in the Atlanta bullpen, and if the Dodgers get anything going, Steve Howe gets up in their pen. There's Steve. Marshall against Mailer with 2 out, 8th inning, 7-3 Brave. Fastball hit down to Ramirez. Rafael cranks up, and that's it. So the Dodgers wind up with 2 doubles, an error, and a scoring fly ball for a run. And at the end of 7.5, Atlanta 7 and the Dodgers 3. No record when leading after 7. Remember, Bruce Sutter, who is down in the bullpen, has saved 9. He has all 9 saves. Eddie Haas is going to have Paul Runge bat, so we're going to see Sutter. And another interesting thing is that the catcher, Larry Owen, when the inning ended, Owen went down to the bullpen and caught a few pitches from Sutter because Larry, coming up from Richmond, had not caught him in a big league game. So Runge will hit for Mailer, and they'll hand this one over to Bruce Sutter. Runge even worked out as a catcher because there was a shortage here with both Cerrone and Benedict banged up.
That wasn't a bad idea for Owen because I'm sure that split finger fastball is going to be brand new to him, much like catching a knuckleballer. You got to get an idea how it's going to break.
He didn't have an opportunity to catch a bunch of pitches, but he did catch a few. And then, of course, Sutter will have 8 more warm-up tosses before getting ready for the 9th inning. 1-1 to Paul Runge, and he takes it to right, foul down in the corner.
That guy's been trying to get a ball all day. He finally got one hit to him, and he dropped it. Too bad, pal.
And he has to explain it to those kids, too.
Yeah.
Carlos Diaz working on the pinch hit of Paul Runge. 7-3 Atlanta. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning.
That's something I fairly new, is with nobody on pitching from a stretch. I mean, you know, be comfortable as we watch the Viking come in, Bruce Sutter.
The Viking?
That's what he looks like.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Down he goes. So Runge off the bench to strike out. And now to the top of the order, Brad Kaminsky coming up. So Carlos Diaz. The Braves have stopped. They've had 1 hit since the 3rd inning. But by that time, they had a 7-2 lead. It is now 7-3. Here's Kaminsky now. He has 8 RBIs, but no power at all. And, of course, they're expecting great things from him. I guess that's the toughest thing in the world, to live up to the expectations of others. They have him billed as a superstar. But what happened to Kaminsky in his rookie year, he really took a dive after the All-Star break. He hit only 189. And somebody asked him, do you believe in the sophomore jinx? He said, I sure hope not. He had a rough first year.
Check me out. At the end of the 4th inning, since then, the Dodgers have had 3 hits.
That's right.
And the Braves won.
That's it. I mean, there has not been very much going on here.
It has been a silent movie.
Boy, I tell you what, Kaminsky is really struggling. You just wonder about the pressure on that kid. Take another look at his swing. He played last night and struck out his last 2 at-bats. So he has struck out 3 consecutive at-bats, and he has to be following a tremendous load on his shoulders. And a lot of it put there by Henry Aaron, because Aaron has unflagging belief in Kaminsky and his ability. And, of course, they quoted everything that Henry said, and now this kid's got to try and live up to it. That's tough. Not very much anybody can say to him either. I mean, you run out of hang in there's pretty quickly.
Yes, you do. I tell you, it's a tough thing when they hang labels on you. You know, Sparky did it to Kirk Gibson and then Mickey Mantle.
Little fly ball, slicing foul, and that will go out of play.
That's one of the things that always bothered me in baseball. Who can sit in judgment and say he's got that kind of potential, or he's going to be another this or another that?
That's that awful thing where a fella is finished and someone will say, it's a shame he never reached his potential.
Yo.
And you say, oh, that's great, thanks. 0-2 to Rafael Ramirez, who has doubled and homered. He has hit in 8 straight and hitting .278.
Just think about it. There've been Mercer was going to be the next Mickey Mantle. That's a tough spot to put a kid.
Boy. On deck, Dale Murphy. 7-3 Atlanta. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning. There's a shot up the middle. So Ramirez is blazing hot. Single, double, and home run today. And he had a single and a double last night.
He drives this one right back up the middle.
That is hit number 1 off Diaz, hit number 13 for the Braves. So Ramirez in 2 games has 2 singles, 2 doubles, and a 3-run home run. Murphy struck out single, flied out, and walked. He's 1 for 3. And Terry Harper is on deck. Ball 1. Then we told you on the 1st of May, the Braves beat Cincinnati 17-9, and they've been very quiet ever since. So they have finally broken out at the expense of the Dodgers. Ground ball to third, and goes by Anderson. Anderson kind of backed up and let the ball play him, and that's always a dangerous play. But Dave is basically a shortstop. Playing third, never touched it. It'll go as a hit. Watch him back up, and the ball just skip by.
Usually ends up by you when you back up. That ball just ate him up. He didn't know which hop to play, played the wrong one, never did get anything.
Tell you one thing, Murphy could use that hit. He is 2 for 4 today. And the batter is Terry Harper. Harper has 2 hits. He's 2 for 4. Right. When the Dodgers come up in the 9th inning, they'll have Mike Scioscia, Dave Anderson, and then Diaz spot. You have Murphy at first, Ramirez at second, 2 out. Little foul, out of play. 0-2. Large crowd, 36,477, and it has been a most enthusiastic crowd, particularly when the Braves came back off the floor with 2 in the first to tie, 4 in the second to get out in front. 1-2. And they're building up a little wave coming around the left field line. It is now beautiful weather in Atlanta. The big storm front went through. One and 2. Foul tipped and held by Scioscia, and that takes care of Terry Harper. So Diaz winds up striking out the side, allows 2 hits. The Braves lead 2, and at the end of 8, Atlanta 7 and the Dodgers 3. Hard behind the plate on a hot, muggy day.
I bet he's about 8-10 pounds lighter.
Just water.
Still 8-10 pounds lighter.
A bunt by Scioscia, and Suter will lead him up. 1 away. Bruce Suter went nearly 3 weeks without an opportunity for a save from April to the middle of May. You know, the Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by Ford, who invites you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller Beer. Miller made the American way since 1855. By Wagner, the right tool for painting. And by State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
How long did he go without pitching?
Well, he went from April 25th to May 13th, almost 3 weeks, without an opportunity to get a save.
That's where I saw the line. It said 3 things you don't see in Atlanta. There's a Viking, a Shepherd, or a Bruce Sutter.
Well, Dave Anderson's taking a look at him. Dave has hit into a force play, flied to right, and single to left. He's 1 for 3. 7-3 Atlanta, and Sutter trying to lock up shop. And that's going to be a one-hopper through. So Anderson comes up with his second hit as Murphy gets it back in. For the Dodgers, they're 8 hits. They had 7 hits against Mailer, who allowed 3 runs. The executive producer of NBC Sports is Michael Weissman. The coordinating producer for NBC Baseball is Harry Coyle. The telecast of today's Game of the Week, produced by John J. Filippelli. A lot of emotion as I did.
Oh, yeah. It sounded like something out of Metropolitan.
Right.
Filippelli,
Right.
Figlio mio, Giovanni.
That's it. I mean, there's
You
something
got it,
about
that's
that.
right.
Directed by Andy Rosenberg. Pregame produced by Les Dennis. Pregame directed by Mary Buta Lomusio. Technical directors Wayne Barry and Sal Nagita. And R.J. Reynolds, with a 7-game hitting streak and a bad hamstring pull, is up there hitting for Carlos Diaz. So Bruce Sutter with that split-fingered fastball that has become nationally known. One and one. And there's a ball hit by the box down to Hubbard, who backhands and gets it to Ramirez, and they barely missed the double play. That's why we were talking before. We didn't expect Reynolds to come up with a man on base because he would instinctively try to run to avoid a double play and hurt himself. And he almost did it just then.
And Ramirez, watch this. When Ramirez gets the ball, he's really not in good position, and he almost has to throw flat-footed. Made it very close. You can see Reynolds hobbling to first base. He didn't come across the bag. He stayed behind the bag and threw flat-footed. Wasn't able to make the play.
Bob Welch is running for R.J. Reynolds and a bunt foul by Steve Sachs. So Bob Welch, who just returned, he was down in the Florida State League, and he did some pitching down there, made a start the other night, went 5 innings and pitched very well. And now he's used as a pinch runner. 2 out in the 9th inning. Atlanta 7, Dodgers 3. Steve Sachs 1 for 4 today. That was a leadoff single. Guerrero eventually hit a 2-run home run, but it's been all Atlanta ever since. Strike. 0-2. Fouled away. He's still there. 0-2 the count. So Steve Sachs battling to stay above water against Bruce Sutter. A .265 average. If Sachs can extend the inning, Terry Whitfield is on deck to hit for Mariano Duncan. One and two. Fouled away again. So Bruce Sutter trying to nail it down. It is 7-3. He would not get a save under these conditions. He's just trying to get an out. Fouled away. So Welch holding at first with 2 out in the 9th. 7-3 Atlanta. Sachs trying to keep it alive in the 9th. It was 2-2 at the end of one inning. Atlanta got 4 in the second and 1 in the third to lead 7-2. The Dodgers got another run in the 8th inning, and now we're in the 9th.